Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to a manager review segment where we are going to look back tonight on Marco Silva's spell in charge. Only 1.5 years here and very recent, so surely a lot for us to recall. The us in this case is myself and Terry and Dave Johnston from the Falcon Blues. And we'll start with you, Dave. Let's go back to the beginning, the summer of 2018. What was your opinion when Marco Silva was announced as our new manager?
Well, he couldn't have done any worse than Koeman or Allardyce, really, could he? I think you look at it and you go, well, we needed someone in, and we needed someone in fast to steady the ship and get someone in with Marcel Brands. But my from the get-go, it was like, I don't want him. I didn't want him as manager of Everton. You know, it wasn't just, it just didn't come from anything that instilled any kind of confidence in me. You know, you look at Koeman, and probably similar, but it was that name, and you know that recognisable name with Ronald Koeman. You can go, well, hang on, it's Ronald Koeman. It's not, well, it was Marco Silva. And you know, the 48 games in the English football to then come to Everton, that's not an Everton manager to me. And you know, it's more a case of like, all right, he's here, we got to get on with it and hope that something changes and something clicks with him and Brands. But for me, from the get-go, I was like, I don't really want this fella in, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and, you know, see where it takes us.
Yeah, I think I was a lot more confident, than you were in him. I think the fact that he was bringing some kind of a more attacking style of play to the team, to obviously what we'd have to witness under Allardyce and to a lesser extent Koeman before that, I thought, whatever it'll be a breath of fresh air. And I think to an extent it was. What did you think, Terry, when Silva was announced?
Well, when we were first linked with Silva, you know, in the early parts of the season before, I wasn't really, you know, struck on him. I didn't dislike him per se, but I thought, well, he's not really done anything. You know, he's done all right with Watford. I didn't hold the Hull spell against him, to be honest, because of the situation he went into. But I was like, you know, I was underwhelmed. I was like, you know, I can see why they want him. You know, they think he's going to be another Pochettino. And when he was at Watford before the wheels came off, he was getting like linked with like, oh, he might go to Chelsea after this. So he was a hot commodity before his form dipped off. But when he actually got appointed, a lot of time had passed between the first link and then, and I had completely changed my opinion. At that point, I was like, I hated Allardyce. I hated him. Every press conference, I was just tweeting non-stop afterwards, slating him. I couldn't stand him. I couldn't wait for him to be shot at the club week. The club could breathe fresh air again. So just like, you know, if you get out of a bad relationship and the next person is not as bad, and you're just like over the top with how much you think they're great, I was a bit like that with Silva when he was appointed. Whilst I still would have, you know, I was still, you know, you line up, you know, Paulo Fonseca and other managers we were linked with. Silva was still down, you know, my list of candidates, but I was just so happy to have a young, like fresh ideas, progressive manager who wants to play attacking football on paper. I was made up. I was like, you know what, I would have preferred someone else, but I just think he's so much better than what Allardyce was. And I was happy for the club to get out of that little spell, because I personally liked Koeman. I thought he should have got a bit longer in the job. And you know, no point going over that now. But I was so anti Allardyce that I was just happy to have what I considered to be a proper Everton manager again, in the sense of it wasn't this self-promoting, you know, ego maniac idiot in Sam Allardyce. So I was quite enthusiastic, but with all those like qualifiers.
I think we can speak for a lot of Everton fans in that respect, where I think at that stage we took on this anything but Allardyce mentality. And do you think that maybe helped Marco Silva's cause in his early stages as Everton manager, sort of, especially when he first encountered that bad spell in the winter of the first season when we were struggling a bit? Do you think it sort of bought him a bit more time, the whole, at least he's not Sam Allardyce mentality?
Did with me.
Yeah, definitely. I'd have thought so because of the... Sorry, Sarah, go on.
No, I mean, it wasn't right. I look back now and just think I was wrong there. Like, I was giving him benefits of the doubt when he didn't deserve it and he hadn't earned it. But I was just so keen to get a bit of stability and a bit of like, let's not turn on this manager, let's stick with it because look what happened last time. That, I think I was a little bit naive and, giving him, chances that he if we hadn't have had Allardyce beforehand, he wouldn't have got.
That's definitely
probably say the same. It's just you did give him the benefit of the doubt, even in his press conferences, and we were thinking goals will come here. Where we were doing all the great work outside, leading up to the 18-yard box, and just not having that killer instinct. I suppose that was with having Calvert-Lewin up top a lot. Calvert-Lewin was still finding his feet for the majority of the season, and that sort of hamstrung. It hamstrung Silva a bit. It's like, well, who do I turn to? Do I turn to Oumar Niasse? Cenk Tosun wasn't doing anything, and he did struggle, but it was like, no, goals are going to come. We all sat there and we all said, it's like, we're playing good football, we're just not getting the results. We'll keep chipping at this, and one day we're just going to spank a team and we're just going to go on and run. And unfortunately, didn't really happen until like the latter stage of the season.
I think what was sort of disappointing, you spoke about his press conferences, I thought his press conferences were really bland. I just couldn't listen to them. I mean, whether you liked Roberto Martinez or not, I could listen to his press conferences and he had a bit more of a charisma, whereas I think Marco Silva was pretty dull, wasn't he? I remember some of his press conferences, like especially in the pre-season of this season that we're still in now. It's hard to. It's been that long ago now where I almost forget that Silva was the manager at the start of the season. The last 2 months have felt like an eternity, but that's kind of what it was like listening to a Marco Silva press conference.
Yeah, he just mumbled through them all, didn't he? And you know what I mean? Like that was another thing. It was like, yeah, he doesn't communicate well, and everything was always. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but everything was.
He's crap.
Yeah, but it's gonna come off because there were things you could grasp onto, under Silva, because Koeman, his first season, was basically Lukaku, just like hid all the weaknesses, and it's the same. I think Aubameyang's doing it now for Arsenal. I think without Aubameyang, they'd go like we did without Lukaku. But and then since Lukaku left, we've had no saving grace in the team at all. There was like no players that anyone liked, and there was no standout player who was like making things bearable. But then eventually, when Silva comes in, he come in with alongside. We had Luca Dean, who was everyone adored him because he was so good, and like Bernard down the left was the new Baines Pienaar type thing, and Richarlison was scoring goals. So it came, Silva came in with like things you could grasp onto as like positives to say, sort of go, well, look, it's better now because look at this, look at that, and we say about like, oh well, he was helped by the spectre of Allardyce. I think before he went on the run, before the Cardiff win, which turned things around a lot for Silva, there was like talk. It's happened again since, obviously, that he's going to go, and David Moyes might come in, and I think that was it wasn't as widely reported as it was this recent time, but there was rumours that David Moyes was spoken to about coming in, and I think a lot of people were like, "No, just stick with Silva, even though things aren't great." We don't want to go backwards and just have a repeat of the Allardyce thing where everyone's just disillusioned and everyone's not enthusiastic, and we'll just stick with it and see if it comes out the other side.
Yeah, I think I think we were scarred a bit by the Allardyce era where we didn't want to have that sort of permanent manager but interim manager, if you know what I mean, in the sort of Allardyce sense, which I think David Moyes would have been if we brought him in as well. And obviously, we had that same issue when we did sack Silva eventually in December. I think for a long time before Carlo Ancelotti was announced, it was rumoured it was definitely going to be David Moyes for about a week, I think, wasn't it? And I think which obviously the fans didn't receive well.
I'd have been sick if that had happened. Honestly, I think if Moyes was to come in, I'd have been done with football. I'd have been done with Everton. Honest to God, that's one cut too many. That was. I mean, you look at Koeman, you look at Allardyce, you look at Silva's tenure. It's death by 1,000 cuts. Even going back to Roberto Martinez, you looked at Martinez's style in his first season. It's great, attacking, flowing football, pressing, high energy, and then it just went. We're just going to pass it. We're just going to keep passing the ball around, and we conceded so many goals and lost so many games, and it was death by 1,000 cuts. And I think Moyes would have been the cut across my throat. That'd been done. Honest to God, I don't think I'd have bothered with Everton anymore.
That probably would have finished me off as well. And you know what? It's not even that much. I mean, it is a bit, but it's not even completely a comment on Moyes' ability as a manager. But it's just so depressing, isn't it? The idea. I mean, you want to be excited by your club. You want to be able to get behind it. And I just think some of the bad decisions since. I think Lukaku leaving's probably a good thing, a good timestamp. Since then, the decisions that we've made with regards to recruitment and regards to managers and what have you, they've been so hit and miss that everyone was just so tired of rolling the dice, and no one who would have been enthusiastic about Moyes coming back in. There'd been people who would have thought it was a good move and it was a sensible move, but no one would have been excited, would they? Even this.
Bear in mind though that even then, obviously Moyes did a good job at Everton over 11 years there or thereabouts, but it wasn't the same Moyes that was coming back as the one that left us.
No,
he's washed up now. That's
no. There was no hunger with that Moyes. You look at his time at United, then his time in Spain wasn't good enough. And then, he bounced around a little bit and ended up at West Ham. And yeah, to be fair, he kept West Ham up, but that is literally what he was there to do. It's to then come to Everton, it's like, listen, you're going to have to turn this around again, but you're going to have to deliver. And I don't think Moyes has that in him anymore. I don't think he's got that fire and that spark that he had during that period where it was backs against the wall for Everton. And, we're the underdogs. All right, let's show them what underdogs are made of. You know what I mean? And there's no fight in Moyes anymore. You can see it when he's on the touchline. He just looks just beaten.
I mean,
the thing. Sorry, go on.
No, wait, go ahead, Terry.
Sorry, just back onto Silva. I do think though with Silva, I thought for the longest time his biggest problem was the press. Eventually. It was his own football, his own, doing that cost him his job. I'm not suggesting for a second he didn't deserve to go. You could list off a load of things like the away record by itself. The fact that he won one away game or what it was while he was here or two, it was just atrocious. But he needed to be spectacular to counteract the fact that the press hated him because he took Allardyce's job. So. Everyone in the press couldn't wait to stick the knife in on him, and he didn't have the personality to overcome that. He was so meek and so withdrawn and sunken into himself, and mumbling. I'm not even saying it was an English thing. His English was fine. He just had no presence, no gravitas as a manager, which you do need. And the press were just out to get him at every turn. He told. One of the away games that we got a result, he told the players to give their shirt to the supporters, and idiots like Cundy on TalkSport were going, that's the sign of a desperate manager. What, telling the players to give the away fans the shirt is a desperate manager? He was snake bitten from the minute he got there, and he got to Goodison, and he just didn't have it in him. He wasn't a good enough manager or a big enough character to overpower that narrative. And for me, he basically, he was on the outs as being an Everton manager this season at the home game for Spurs when the horrid injury for Andre Gomez happened. And he was just so meek. He just, afterwards, I don't even mean around the injury, but that game, the penalty decision we didn't get,
he was too timid. He was too respectful of the officials who, if you'd asked me, I thought he was too soft on the players. I thought if the referee had took more of a hold on that game, then perhaps the tackle that led to the injury doesn't happen in the first place. I think if the referee controls the game more, obviously Spurs were practically refereeing the game because we weren't getting in the faces enough.
Well, yeah, exactly. We need, I think, an Everton manager should be combative because the fans are combative. Look at Goodison when it's snarling, when it's nasty. You need a manager that embodies that. You don't need a hothead manager who starts, gets himself sent off all the time. But case in point, Carlo Ancelotti is one of the most decorated managers, most calm and collected managers in world football. But when that decision went against us at Man United at the end, what did he do? Straight on the pitch.
Right in the ref's face, love it.
Right in the ref's face. Honest to God, that was where Marco Silva, I think, ultimately went wrong. I think we could have got past the football and would have improved and we could have lived with a lot of the other negatives if his personality would have been a better fit with supporters. Like I would never have dreamed Ancelotti would be a bombastic, fire in the belly type manager, but he clearly is. Like he is when he needs to be, and that's why Everton fans have took to him so much. It's not just about the success that does help, but if he'd have had all that success, but he just didn't fit the fans, you wouldn't have that sort of connection with him. And he's only been here 5 minutes, and we've already got well more of a link with him than we have ever had with Marco Silva, and he was here for 18 months.
I think it's worth remembering though. You just said obviously you didn't think he had that fight. I think all the top managers have everything in them to be what they need to be when they need to be. It's that, and I think he talks about that in his book, doesn't he? About his decisiveness. He knows when to be angry, when to be reserved, and I think Marco Silva was very monotonous in the sense that he was constantly too quiet, too meek, quite sulky. I think he just sucked it up a bit too much as well. And obviously he was getting pelters off the press, like you say. I think it all just came together I think it all just come down on top of him, didn't it? Like a ton of bricks.
I think apart from that as well, I just think it's just this, he almost come across as a bit stubborn as well. As not just like as you're saying, he's very monotonous, but also a very stubborn person. This is how I'm going to do it. This is how I'm going to set it out. I'm not going to change my ways or anything like that. And you just think, mate, just fucking take Sigurdsson off. For once,
the best one's just scrap the 4-2-3-1. That I despise that formation with a passion. I mean, obviously we saw it was the downfall of Roberto Martinez in the first place. I think he was too slow to change things, and that saw him out the door. I mean, obviously with Marco Silva, I think it was 10 times worse. I think the rot set in so much quicker than it did with Martinez, which set it all really, because obviously it was pretty diabolical towards the end of the Martinez era. But Silva pretty much lost the dressing room a lot quicker, I think, didn't he?
I think thinking about when I wrote this down before because we're thinking about Silva and everything as well. He lost the majority of his midfield, and you look at there's different things that sort of went towards his downfall, because you look at the Brighton defeat, the last minute penalty or last minute goal, the penalty that wasn't, and he went back and said actually it wasn't a penalty and stuff like that. We never really recovered from the Derby defeat in the last minute, and we took that into the new year, and we took that excuse for quite a while. And he kept using that excuse to say, like, "Oh, well, listen, we still haven't recovered from getting beat in the Derby."
That's pathetic to use.
It is. It's those little things. It's that attitude that he had. But then, you look at it. He lost Andre Gomez. He lost Gabaman within, an hour. And his leg fell off, and he's not been the same. And losing Idrissa Gueye as well, who you don't bank on Gabaman's leg falling off when you've replaced him from after selling Idrissa Gueye, and losing that midfield, that's an engine, that we couldn't recover from that. I think as well. He's had
even with Ancelotti in charge, I don't think we've recovered from that. You can't.
No,
you can't when you don't have the personnel required to do it.
No, this is it though. He was all the injuries, all the last minute goals and the decisions he had in the 2 seasons he was here. He had loads of decisions incorrectly go against him. He was a very unlucky manager, and you can't have that if you're in an unlucky club, which we are. You can't have an unlucky manager because it just compounds and stacks on top of each other.
But he wallowed in it as well.
Yeah.
He didn't stand up to it. Allardyce, to be fair to him, was a lot more like in the press's face, if you ask me.
Prickly, yeah. He was fighting the supporters rather than the press. But the thing, my point was going to be about Allardyce then, and this is a damning thing of Silva, is that Allardyce is one of his go-to lines about, you know, when he's asked, usually on TalkSport, about his time at Everton. He always says, "Well, I didn't have the players. I only brought in 2 players, and they've brought in all those players."
Neither of them were much good.
Ancelotti's got the same squad that Silva had when we were atrocious. Duncan Ferguson had the same squad that Ancelotti that Silva's had. Marco Silva had Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin, both there, both fully fit. If he'd have just been less stubborn, as Dave said, he could have easily done what Ferguson and then subsequently Ancelotti have done. But the 2 of them up front and adjust the team accordingly and play around that winning combination which we've got. You can't say like, oh well, if someone were to turn around and say, well, Silva didn't have Richarlison all season, but Ancelotti has. No, he had those players. It's not like Ancelotti's suddenly playing and he's got Kabaman back, and Gomez has only just been back 5 minutes, so he hasn't really used him properly yet. Same resources, but a much better manager, and even a much less experienced manager in Ferguson saw what needed to be done. Very simple changes, play to the strengths of the players you've got and make the most of it. And Silva was just like, no, we're playing this, and that's all we're playing, come hell or high water.
I always wonder why these managers are the way they are, because it's not just, we've had far too many of these kind of managers, and even David Moyes, for me, was one of them. He was too stuck in his ways at times as well, no matter how well a job you think he did. But it goes for clubs, loads of clubs in the bottom half of the table, and I find those kind of managers at that level are just too stubborn and refuse to change their ways, and it costs so many of them the jobs, and you wonder, like, when does the penny drop?
You wonder if it's, as you said there, they're stuck in the ways. Do that? It goes. You look at Silva as well. Does that manager have a plan B? And if that plan B doesn't work, does he have a plan C? And that, for me, we've not had it. And all these managers that come in and show it, you look at Everton for the prime example. Obviously, you look at Silva's style, which was a lot of passing, a lot of high pace, but it didn't amount to anything. And it's like, well, listen, as Terry's just alluded to, then you play to the strengths of your strikers, which we didn't do. We started pushing Calvert-Lewin out wide, and making him go win headers on the wing, and then try and do everything else. Ancelotti's seen that and go, listen, lad, just go and play in the middle. Don't play in the middle of the park, wait for the ball to come, do what you need to do and win the ball where you need to, but be in that central position. And he's changed Calvert-Lewin's game around to, 15 goal season striker so far. And, but it's not different. It's not massive changes. It's simple. Listen, go and do that. Go and do your job as a striker. Go and do your job as a winger. And it's working. And it's a stubbornness, yeah. But it's also, I don't know how to get myself out of this any other way. I'm going to stick to what I've got, and hopefully something sticks.
Just in a quick defence, though, of, well, not just Silva, but like other managers like that, I think it may be a confidence thing, because, if this 4-4-2 was to suddenly stop working and Ancelotti just decides he's going to change it up, everyone had just given him the time and the benefits of the doubt over that because he's Carlo Ancelotti. Silva started tinkering with the formation. Yeah, eventually everyone would have been made up because we were telling him to. But if he'd have done that further back down the line and it still wasn't working, he'd get it levelled at him. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's changing formation every week. And that is a valid criticism of some managers. But I think it may just be a confidence thing. These managers know that they're only, 4 or 5 defeats away from the sack. So they're just terrified of changing things in case they're perceived as being, unsure of themselves.
It's a good point. The managerial climate is the way it is in the Premier League and has been for a good 10, 15 years, to be honest. It's not really what you want to see, but it is what it is. And obviously managers seem to understand that, and obviously they get rewarded handsomely for their sackings, unfortunately, and far too handsomely as far as Everton are concerned, with the likes of Martinez, Koeman, and of course Silva now. I think, is that always an issue, do you think, with Everton? Of course, obviously, the FFP side of things, and obviously we want to keep as much money for the coffers for transfers. We don't want to be constantly paying off managers to be sacked. I know that was another big question mark against should we sack Silva when the rot set in at the start of the season.
I think Silva was probably set up contract-wise to make it a little bit easier to sack him. Not to say that it would, it's easy to sack anyone financially. You've got to pay them out. But I think the lessons were learned from Martinez and Koeman. I don't know. Well, I say lessons were learned. I think he only got a 3-year contract, didn't he? So he was the shortest contract of any of our, not including Allardyce, any of the 3 permanent managers in recent years of Silva, Koeman and Martinez. Now, obviously, we've gone back on that and give Ancelotti a massive long-term contract, but I think that was, part of how you'd attract him. You're not going to give him a 3-year contract, are you?
I think it's a confidence thing again. I think the board know that, Ancelotti is one of the best managers in the world. The fans aren't going to turn on Carlo Ancelotti. They'll turn on every member of the playing squad before they turn on Carlo Ancelotti, if you ask me.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's one of them. Like, you can never guarantee anything, but you just hope that you eventually land on that. We've land on the right man in charge, because we've gone from a club that didn't sack managers to being one that regularly sacked managers. And Silva, for my money, needs to be the last one we sack for a long time. We don't want to get that reputation of being a merry-go-round club, and I think we're verging on it, even if we're not already on it. But Ancelotti, I think, has got the best chance, just because he will have, just from his reputation, the confidence of supporters, because he's the first. Well, yeah, apart from arguably Koeman, because he'd had some success at Valencia, but he's the first.
I'll be honest, I don't think many Valencia fans will agree with you on that. I know he won a cup, but he nearly took them down.
Well, on paper, if not in practice, but Ancelotti is certainly the first for a very long time, proven track record top manager we've brought in. Like, we've had managers in the past who've come good, like Moyes, and we've had managers who've come in who didn't come good, like pretty much everyone else. Ancelotti, whether he's good or not, he's the only one we've had who supports us and just go, can't really say he doesn't know what he's doing. If he's having a bad spell, people will be confident that it is a spell, in my opinion.
That's the perfect way of describing the situation, because Ancelotti, I think, I've spoken to a lot of fans, especially ones who saw the glory days and say this club's bigger than maybe what it's perceived to be, and people say we need a manager who represents the level that this club wants to be at, and this is certainly the first manager that we've had who certainly represents that sort of calibre that the club aspires to be, because all the others have been at best upper mid-table managers, and of course I think that's what Marco Silva was at best.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So yeah, I'd say, just to finish off, what would you say Marco Silva's legacy is at Everton?
That 10-game run towards the end of last season, where we beat Chelsea, United, and Arsenal. And it all started sort of with the 0-0 at Liverpool, the red shirt, which stopped them from winning the league. So he's got that going for him a little bit, but obviously those 3 games. The one thing that always gets me with that is that Fulham game, where you could literally have put your house on it that we weren't going to win against Fulham, and we had to get beat all the top teams. Yeah, we beat everyone else. We did. I think we beat Chelsea, United, and Arsenal, and then we stumbled against Fulham away, and it's like, how the fuck do you do that? It's like, and that typified.
It's vintage Everton, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it just typified Silva. That was he can turn it on when he needs to.
Already relegated as well for them.
They weren't even fighting for their lives, really. We were already they're already down, if you know what I mean.
Mitrovic just bullied Jagielka in his 40s.
Oh God!
That was it. It was Jagielka's game. Jagielka had come back against Arsenal, hadn't he? Scored the winner.
He scored the winner.
And then he goes, "Oh, we'll just carry on playing him." What are you doing?
Yeah, again, that was another thing about Silva. I think his decision making, obviously, I think he made the wrong decision too often, and I think that's really sort of sunk him.
Yeah, just on the question of his legacy, he'll be looked back on now, considering. I mean, he can only do this if we go on to be better without him. I'm pretty sure we will. But he'll be looked back on like Mike Walker. He'll be seen as one of the worst, pound for pound Everton managers, one of the poor ones. But he will be, his positive legacy will be his role in bringing Richarlison. That'll be his. Like, he was crucial to bringing Richarlison, who went on to be one of our top players and went on to be a top player, whether we sell him for a lot of money or whether he stays around for a while like Lukaku did. Yeah, it'll be poor manager, was crucial to bringing in one of our key players in the Premier League era, because I think that's how far Richarlison's going to go.
That's a fantastic point, and I think a really good way to end the segment. I think Richarlison is Silva's legacy. Even if Silva didn't perform well, he's brought in one of our best players for many a year.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
But obviously, as far as Marco Silva goes, I think it's pretty much it. I think we can say it between the three of us. It's been a sort of disapproval more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean that Martinez didn't perform. Had a spell where he was good, but his lasting legacy was he brought Lukaku to the club. Silva will be the same.
I mean, again, great players, but it's just one player, and the manager oversaw underperformance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can,
onwards.
And unfortunately, I think it's far too regular that we say that about managers, and obviously the amount that we've sacked. But I think it's safe to say we can agree on Marco Silva. His legacy as an actual manager was underperformance.
Yeah.
So there you go. That is the end of this segment. As always, you guys on YouTube, get commenting on the video. Let us know your opinions on the Silva era and what kind of legacy you think Silva leaves behind at Everton. Give us a like and a subscribe too while you're at it. And thank you guys for watching on the Toffee Blues.